we have this phenomenon in the U.S. of people race mixing, but then that child, that product of the race mixing is almost always identifying with their darker half. So whether they are a European and an Indian, they identify with the Indian. Whether they are a European and black, they identify with the black. If it's mixed between white and Hispanic, they identify with Hispanic. And you can even kind of see this with the people in their Italian sort of thing. Being a quarter Italian myself, I heard a lot of other people sort of identify that way. But if you really ask them, they may not really be that much Italian. But being a darker peoples, I think people will a lot of times more strongly identify with the Italians, especially if they're like the Southern Italians,
Yeah, and kind of you see the same kind of thing with people who claim Irish heritage. There's a lot of pride in that identifying with that particular group, and I mean there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But as it concerns kids of very dramatically differing cultural background and ethnic background, like say a Northern European mother and a black father having this mixed race kid, you see a child who either identifies very strongly with the darker skin tone, and this largely comes from societal pressures, because of this whole idea that it's a bad thing to be white, that whites are evil, that we deserve to be extinguished. So these kids are encouraged to identify more with like their black background or their Hispanic background. But then, and this is something you saw with Barack Obama after he became president. He was touted as the first black president, and then you have black celebrities such as Morgan Freeman saying he ain't black because he had a non-black mother. So they get caught in this place of being told they have to identify with this side of their ancestry, but then the people of that group don't accept them because they are not of that group. They are of the other as well. So
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to kind of geek out a little bit here, they're like what you see with like half elves or half orcs in Dungeons and Dragons, where in their descriptions it says they don't really fit in with either society.
Yeah, that's a good example, and they don't. This is an injustice on on these children of the race mixing parents. That it's a curse on the child. They're not going to be able to fully fit in. It's not like people out there go out of their way to really make non-whites or whites, or sorry, they don't go out of their way to make non-whites feel that uncomfortable, or race mix kids to feel uncomfortable. It's just natural. It's just built in, a natural distrust of people who are not like you. So they're condemning this child to always be looked at strangely because they have a weird look. They have an odd look. They're kind of an in-between person, in between worlds almost, in between species. And then you have you have outright hostility a lot of times from the dark-skinned blacks to the light-skinned blacks, or from the dark-skinned Latinos to the light-skinned Latinos. I've heard that numerous times on different podcasts and from people that I've met. So it's a real problem that a lot of people who aren't aware, who aren't in the movement, probably think that it's just a thing of hate, that we just have hate in our hearts, embedded within our hearts, and that we just hate these people. But there's real life consequence to these people mixing species this way, and the child has to suffer. And that's one thing that that I was thinking that our movement can even use this to a degree, because these race mixed kids a lot of times end up becoming very politically active, and it is within the realm of possibility to use this against them. As unpopular as that might sound, but if a person is a mixed race black, to say that they're not black enough, or if someone is a mixed race Latino, to say to kind of highlight the fact that that they're a European rather, and the sort of proclivity that people have to identify with the darker part, or like you said, with the Irish. Like, do you think that part of this has to do with the victim culture and people wanting to identify with the part of themselves that they see as a victim, that they feel as a victim in their life, and they want to identify with that group, the underdog sort of thing? Do you think that it has to do with that?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, it's been an industrialized endeavor to make people feel guilty, particularly whites and Asians in the United States. You have this idea of whites are evil, Asians are evil, or Japanese are evil because they allied with the Germans. God forbid. These people have their own interests at heart. So you tie that in on the cultural standpoint of white people equals bad to, for instance, like the guilt culture that you see in some Christian sects. This idea that you are born into sin, you are born guilty, you must work to redeem yourself. It's something that can be taken advantage of to get people to really loathe themselves. And in the instances we're talking about here, the two groups that are mainly targeted, I mean, Asians are targeted too, but the two groups that are primarily being focused on right now in the United States are blacks and whites. On the one hand, we're being driven apart from working together in any capacity. Not even This isn't even counting through breeding together, but working together for our own different interests. Like how can we scratch each other's backs to make sure that our groups survive, while at the same time being told that we have to interbreed together and create these kids that have no strong cultural or ethnic roots as a result of this mixed parentage.